Hi, fight fans. Welcome to a special edition of No Standard 8 Boxing Talk. Today's edition is called Beyond the Ropes, and we're going to focus on, there's a lot that goes on behind boxing. There's so much to fighters that maybe people don't know about. There's a lot that goes in for a fighter to step in the ring and for a fighter to showcase his talents. There's a lot that goes on. Starting off with the coach, started off with the gym, then the promoter, then the writers that talk about his fights and build them up from prospect to contender to champion to losing belts, the whole 9 yards. This is a whole industry of people. So this show or this segment of No Standing Eight is going to focus on those folks that make it happen behind the scenes. And I am happy and honored to have as my very, very first guest on this segment, Abraham Gonzalez. He is no stranger to the boxing community. He is probably one of the hardest working people behind the scenes in boxing. He writes. He comes, he's a writer for NewYorkFights.com. He's an editor for NewYorkFights.com. He does booking for NewYorkFights.com. At one time, he was booking folks for their podcast, for Talkbox Podcast. He also comes out on a lot of podcasts and gives his opinion. He's tied in on the inside. He knows what's happening with fighters and when fights are being scheduled. That's why he's famous for his Around the Curve with Abe. And just recently, he launched his own podcast, the Boxing Rush Hour Show. We're going to get into all that, and we're going to give you an inside, in-depth look into who Abraham Gonzalez is. Abraham, thank you for coming to the show today.
Man, I am, humbled. That's a outstanding intro. Thank you so much for having me. Before we get into anything, I want to shout out my guy, Hexar Design. I'm wearing this T-shirt. I'm wearing your T-shirt, all right? But Hexar does all of the top rank graphic designs for their advertisement for their fighters, and he works with a lot of different people. He's a great guy. I just want to show him some love on the show.
And that's what Abe does, man. Abe likes to show love, and if he likes it and you're a good person, he's gonna give you a promo on his stuff. I never knew who the hell Sofrito Rico was, but I knew it through doing the Boxing Lounge with Abe. So aside from that, he's also the co-host of the Boxing Lounge along with me. And when you guys don't know, with two Bronx cats, two veterans, and when we get together, man, it is like Jordan and Pippen, Kobe and Shaq, Raekwon and Ghostface Killer. I can't, any dynamic duo you think of when him and I get together, it is lit. And people gravitate to us because we bring you no nonsense, gritty, good boxing. And we do our research, and that's what he does. And so let's go ahead, Abe, and give everybody I'm going to use your term on your show. Give everybody a quick bio blast about who Abe is, where you grew up from, your parents, who is Abraham Gonzalez and how did you get to this point?
I tell you, man, I'm from the Bronx, specifically Castle Hill Avenue. Shout out to everybody on Castle Hill. And so, grew up there. Really, I grew up in Watson Avenue first as a kid. Shout out to Watson Avenue. And all the way to about 10, 12 years old, then we moved to Castle Hill. But, it's really tight family. It's me, older brother, older sister, growing up in the Bronx, and it was the Bronx in the 80s, 90s. A little bit tough for middle to lower class families, and so we just kind of made the best of it. As you probably have experienced. Going to the Catholic church and waiting online to get the block of cheese and, those type of, life moments that you go through, and you learn to appreciate things later on, when you've gone through some stuff. Right. And, my father worked in a factory and paper factory. Mom stood at home. It was typical, husband worked, wife stayed at home, but, held down the whole family. So it was just like that, man. And but one thing, that was consistent was, we always watched the Yankees, we always watched the Giants, we always watched USA Tuesday night fights, and we always watched boxing on the weekends. And that's basically where I got it from. We couldn't afford cable, so it had to be, whatever that was local on TV. And if it was like a closed circuit pay-per-view type situation, We had to wait until somebody from the hood got the videotape recorded, right? They
Right.
bring it back, and it gets passed around to everybody in the neighborhood. So sometimes we'd get it, a couple of days after. Sometimes we'd have to wait a week or two, but we'd actually, get to see it after. So, but my introduction, and you're gonna love this. My introduction was Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvin Hagler. We were in Seward Avenue in my aunt's house. She lived in the projects there, and everyone was crowded around the TV, and they put the videotape in there, and I saw this fight, from what I remember. But what I remember is my father was so upset that not Duran, that Hagler lost. He was a huge Hagler fan. He was so upset. He felt like Hagler was robbed, and I just saw the passion that he had for it. And then later on, I just kept watching it, and it kept growing on me. Obviously, I joined the Marine Corps at 17-ish, and kind of lost a little bit of it, because obviously I was busy. But then I picked it back up once I started being around, in the military, in the barracks. You get people from all parts, right? So once I started getting around some of the New York guys, some guys from Puerto Rico, Dominican, Panamanians, Mexicans, and and we just started, clicking on that type of level. And then I was able to regain that love I had for it, and it just kind of went from there. Was heavy into watching all the fights, and then I can't remember. I think it was like 2011. It was 2011 or 12, right around there. I think it was 2011. I met Michael Woods through Twitter, right, when he was calling fights for Epic's channel. They used to do the European fights, so the Carl Frampton fights and all that. But he used to do the international call, and he was probably one of the only known writers, because at the time I think he was working with ESPN and all that. One of the only known writers that was actually engaging with people back and forth on Twitter, and because that wasn't really a thing at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just hit it off from there, and it was crazy because we stayed in contact, and then when he finally decided to start up NY Fights, he wanted me to be a part of it in some shape or form, and the rest is history.
That's it, man. And you guys have a very, very tight bond between writer and editor, and then and now friends. I remember when I first came on New York Fights, and I emailed him, and the first thing he said, "If you're a friend of the Stars, you're a friend of mine." So I was like, "All right, cool," but yeah, and I too joined the military when I was 17, and so I understand it's real easy to to get passionate about certain things, especially things in your childhood, because being from New York, and I think you could attest to this. I mean, for most of us, all we know is New York.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All we know, we don't know nothing else outside of New York or Puerto Rico, because you're from Puerto Rican descent and Ecuadorian descent, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So aside from that, and the typical Hispanic household, no me traiga gente en la casa, and we don't associate with people unless they're in our circle.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
When the dude from Cali starts talking shit, or dude from Mexico starts talking shit, then you regain that passion. You start to argue about things like who's the best baseball team, and things like who's the best hip hop artist, and things like who's the best boxers, and that's how you fall into this, man. So yeah. So what led you? I mean, you seem like you had a solid foundation, solid childhood. I don't want to speculate, but what was your motivating factor for joining the military? Not a lot of people joined the military in the 90s, after Desert Storm and all that. What was your motivation?
So my brother was in the Marine Corps at the time.
Okay.
So he was stationed in Okinawa, and after this is gonna sound like movie cliche-ish type of thing, but this is really what happened. I still wasn't sure about joining the military or anything like that. I was going to Baruch College down in Manhattan, but I was struggling. It just something told me like it just wasn't working for me,
Yeah.
right? And there was one day that I went on the train and I'm sitting on the train going home and I'm thinking about life and the fact that I'm not going anywhere and I'm not really making it in college. And when I was thinking about that, I had my head down, and I'm not making this up. When I lifted my head up, there was an advertisement. You know how on the train on the top they have like ads all the way across, right? There was an advertisement for the Marine Corps right in front of me,
Yeah.
and I saw that as a sign. And it so happened, excuse me, that the Marine Corps recruiting office was the stop after my stop on the train. And as I was approaching my stop and I saw this poster, I said, nope, I'm going to stay on the train today. And I'm going to go and stop at the recruiting office. And the rest is history. Real talk.
And what did you sign up to do?
Initially, I signed up. It wasn't like an open contract. It was like an administrative contract or whatever. And there was like 10 jobs that you can do. And you don't get to really pick unless you're like,
Yeah, the Marine Corps is funky like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't get to pick. They pick for you, right? And so there was like 10 jobs that I could have done, some aviation stuff or whatever. And then it just so happened that they picked the administrative clerk. So I ended up doing administrative stuff right off the start. So um, that's how that went down.
Good stuff, man. And so that means you joined 1998, I'm thinking,
Yes,
97, 98. Okay.
98 March.
98 March. I joined in 95. And, things are going great. We're playing war games, and then all of a sudden, shit got real in 2001. Tell me where you were when the towers fell and what was your first thought?
So that is an interesting story, right? I was deployed on a ship. Um, it was we were in Europe somewhere, but not too far from the Middle East. And so when the towers was happening, we were on the ship, and we had some of the living areas had TVs on there, and we had the Armed Forces Network, and so the Armed Forces Network is maybe like 3 channels or something, but they try to pick up as many different things as they can. But they have a news hour, and so this is as the towers are being attacked. I have my headphones on and I'm just shining my boots, and I thought that they had a movie on, right? And so because it looked like something of a movie, I was like, all
Exactly.
right, cool. So I'm listening to my music and shining my boots, and then somebody tapped me on the shoulder. It was like, nah, this shit is really happening. I was like, it just caught me off guard. The ship then called for battle stations, which they it was just like everything was going on, it was chaos. Mind you, at the time, I'm 21 years old, right? First time being away from home, uh, in a different, visiting different. I visited, maybe 15 different countries that summer, right? But not being close to home, and the sirens are going off. They're telling people, man your battle stations, and all these things is happening. The boat like turns around. Mind you, this is a ship, right? This ship turned around and started hauling in a direction that we didn't know which way it was. And it did that all night. And we literally didn't sleep for like 3 days. We
Oh, yeah.
were just waiting to figure out. So they were getting all the helicopters ready. They were saying, hey, if we got to load up, X person, X group is going to go on this helicopter or whatever. And if we have to go touch down somewhere, this is what it is. So all of this is going on. Now, as that is going on, my brother is still in the Marine Corps, and so he is inside the Pentagon. When the Pentagon got hit, he was in the Pentagon. So that is going on. My sister's working downtown, I think around in Saks Fifth Avenue or Bloomingdale or something, which was not too far from there.
No.
So all of these things were going on at the same time. You know, moms and pops was losing their shit at home.
Mm-hmm.
And or at least pops kept it together. My mom was losing her shit. But you know, and then I was finally able to so the colonel, he allowed for people that had family in New York or wherever that were potentially affected by this. He let them use the phone, his phone, which is the only one that was working on the ship. You know how that goes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, so I was able to use the phone for 2 minutes, right? So 1 minute had to be to call my brother, make sure he's good. Other minute had to be to call my parents, let them know that I'm good. And so I was able to do that, which calmed some nerves down. But you know, obviously, I'm in a situation where I'm the closest to potentially what is the situation, what the situation is, and it was just like all types of thoughts and things running through my mind. So it was some crazy times, man.
Yeah, it was, and of course, all of America was affected by it. But those of us that were in New York, that had family in New York, and those of us that wore the uniform, it hit different.
Yeah.
You know, it just hit different. And you know, it's a day that definitely changed my life. It's a day that definitely changed your life, and you know, events happened. You know, but nevertheless, we got through it. We're here and doing what we love, and which is boxing. You know, and and what a great sport. You know, because boxing we can relate, right? Growing up, growing up in the times that you and I grew up in, being military guys, boxing is just that sport because you're getting through our childhood in the environment we got through. You had to be, you had to have your head on a swivel. You had to be not only just school smart, you had to be street smart. You had to know your place. You had to know who you could hang with, who you couldn't hang with. The military is kind of sort of the same way. There's a certain discipline that goes along with being a military guy, and then there's also a certain discipline that goes along with being a boxer. I think that's why sort of, at least that's why I gravitate to it. So who who is that who was that guy for you that that forever will be that boxing guy for you? Who was that fighter?
Roberto Duran.
Roberto Duran, huh?
Roberto Duran. And
You see him on
yeah,
on my legends
I see,
wall.
I see him on the wall. And trust me, there's plenty of others. Roberto Duran was my father's favorite, right? And that's partially why. Um, it's funny because their second fight, his second fight with Sugar Ray, was the day before, I think it is, my first birthday in 1980. So, you know, I was born in November 26th. So I think it was November 25th is when they fought. So,
Yeah.
but you know, I think that, you know, in the beginning or in my earlier years, it was more so. I think I liked them more because my father liked them, right? But as I started to really watch him and really study him, it was everything that he did was at such a high level, and you know, you just it's almost like it's almost like a a art piece by Picasso, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Mona Lisa. You know, you can see the Mona Lisa thousands and thousands of times, but you appreciate it so much for what it means, right, to history. And I think that Roberto Duran is like that. Some of the things, and I was talking to Zachary Ochoa about it, um, just like, you know, the way he slipped, you know, his moves, the way he rolled with punches, how he punched, his placement, his how he shifted, you know, his aggressiveness. Now, mind you, you know, he used to use some forearms and elbows, stuff like that. But which fighter hasn't, right?
Sorry.
Even the best have. But but it was just everything about that. It was almost like he was moving in slow motion in his mind. and that is fascinating to me, and that's why he will forever be my number one guy.
Yeah, it's beautiful savagery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, because I mean, he had it all. And I think you and Zachary, people need to listen to the way Zachary and Abe describe Roberto Duran. I never heard it quite put that way, because Zachary said, while he looks like he's not doing anything, just being a brute, you got to catch those little nuances of how he slipped and did certain things. Zachary said, he was deceptively fast. People don't know how to, and he had good defense. And when you watch boxing the way we watch boxing, we see those things. And like I think I told you in one of our boxing lounge things that I see things. Like almost instantly, you could tell if a guy's going to pan out or not. Because we've been doing this for a long time. Speaking of doing this for a long time, people don't understand what it takes to be a very good boxing analyst and writer, especially now with boxing Twitter. And it's just not boxing, not Twitter anyway, just social media in general, where everybody can get on and get one of these, and all of a sudden it's an expert. People don't understand the work that goes into doing this. Let people know, aside from how much boxing do you actually watch in order to be as good as you are?
Oh man, first of all, I appreciate the compliment. I watch a lot of it. sometimes too much, right?
Yeah.
And so uh, I think that a lot of it I have to say that it came from watching, covering the club shows,
Mhm.
right? One of the writers that contributes, he doesn't contribute as much anymore, but his name is John Gatlin. Very, very good writer. I wouldn't say good; he's a great writer. And when I started off, doing that, he told me, he was like, "Hey, you're gonna learn your best way of doing things, of doing this, is to learn, from that level and seeing it, that because in the club shows you're really close, right?
Mhm.
You're literally on the apron in most situations, and so you see the little things. You see, like what's this guy's name? El Jaguar. He fought Joshua Franco 3 times. I can't remember his name right now, but anyway, I used to watch him, and at the club shows, I would see that when he would come in to punch, he was looking down. He would never look at his opponent in the eyes or in the chest. He was always looking down to see the waist and the feet, and depending on where that was, he would throw certain punches. And so, like, I didn't catch a lot of, like, you can't catch those things watching it on TV, but seeing it at the club show level, and seeing them, progress from there, it helps you with that. So I attended a lot of club shows in LA when I was in California, probably twice a month, on a Friday. And mind you, um, I was driving 2 hours with a little bit of traffic. Oh no, like 2.5 hours on a Friday afternoon to go cover a club show, to get there, and then an hour and 45 minutes to come back. Sometimes I would drive almost 3 hours to Indio, and then 3 hours back. Now I was able to do that because the show would end at 9 o'clock at night, because it's West Coast time. So I'd be home by midnight. But the fact was that, like, my desire to learn was,
Mhm.
I had that much desire that I wanted to do that. Now that comes with sacrifice, right? Because if I'm doing that, then I'm not spending time with the wife, and and there's that balance that you have to put up. So she put up with a lot to be able to give me the opportunity to do that, and that's why I love her.
Yeah, you know what? Now that we're that topic, because I'm just saying, Bob, I've been with my wife for 27 years, and this boxing thing has been for 27 years. She married me. She married boxing.
Yeah.
Uh, so she understands what we do. But speaking of which, let's talk about your lovely wife. You got you're married. You have a beautiful son. Talk about them. Talk about how you guys met, the marriage, and finally the birth of your son, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so when dealing with me, nothing is traditional. So, me and my wife met online
Mhm.
uh, through Match.com, and so it wasn't a one try, and I met her. Like, obviously there was some trial and error in there,
Yeah,
right? And so, um, but we met through there while I was in Virginia, and then she took a chance with me and moved to California when I had orders, with the intent of getting married, and then we just got married when we got here. So, and the rest is history. We had, little Abe. He's now 2 years, 4.5 months, and so I waited a long time, but I wanted to make sure that it was, the right situation, and that I got married and had a kid, with someone that I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and that's exactly what I did.
that's absolutely it, man. You can't. That's the way to do it. Also, many times people go the other way. And there's certain obstacles that come along with that. So, but you're still active duty.
Yeah, so I'm stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Mhm.
Hanging out here, about to hit 24 years in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, and hit my 24-year anniversary. And yeah, just hanging out, doing what I'm doing, and seeing what the future holds. Pop in on Coach Joe Higgins every once in a while.
Mhm.
See what he's got going on with the 2MEF Mace boxing team, and he's got Stephanie Simon there, and she's about to do some big things. She's the number 2 in the country, and so he's got a lot of kids that he's working with. So I'll pop in there from time to time, see what he's got going on, and then go on about my day.
Yeah, very good coach, very good person. Interesting backstory. You did an awesome story of that, guys. One of my favorite stories you wrote. In the time that I've known you, you captured the hardship of being a Marine, being a firefighter, then being a coach, and some of the struggles back and forth. And I think he was the coach of Patrick Day, right?
That's right.
And that tragedy, just when he bounced back from a tragedy, he suffered another tragedy. I mean, anyway, you guys want to find out the story, read it. Abe did a good job on that one. And
Thank you.
so I guess what I'm trying to highlight is that this stuff doesn't come overnight. Abe didn't get to talk to Gary Russell Jr. and do an exceptional story, probably the best story ever done on Gary Russell Jr. without putting in some work. You got to put it into work. Just like boxers put into work, writers, analysts, respected writers and analysts, they got to put that work in. They got to go to these club shows. You don't decide you want to be a writer one day and you're covering MGM Grand. No, that's not how it works. And sometimes we do it. A lot of times we do it out of our own pocket, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's crazy because Woods told me that in the beginning, that I think it was one of his first gigs, that he worked for a paper, or it was a company, and the first 2 years basically he worked for free,
Yeah.
right? And then he cut his teeth doing that stuff, and then eventually that led to him getting a paid job. So yeah, a lot of it comes out of your own pocket. There's a lot of patience, and like you said, you don't jump in there and then expect to talk to Canelo Alvarez tomorrow. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, you have to earn that, right? And you have to come up and do what you got to do, and then that time will come. It will come when you're standing 2 feet away from Canelo, and you're joking about some random stuff.
That's right.
Like,
It
and that
takes
happens.
it takes a level of dedication, just like fighting, to be at the top level, to be who Abraham Gonzalez is. It took years of just dedication, driving those miles, coming out of pocket, leaving a wife and a kid at home, aside from the fact that he's a military man. I drove to cover a show in Atlanta, and that was 5 hours from me. You looked at me like, you fucking crazy? You drove 5 hours? I'm like, yeah, man, but you know, I got to cover the story. I love boxing, and then to sell it to my wife, I'm like, oh man, the aquarium's over there, so we can take the kids to the aquarium. I didn't give a fuck about that aquarium. I could care less about that aquarium. So, So, I mean, you got to do those things, So, and yeah, so everybody has that favorite fighter. And I don't know about you, but I also have that fighter I despised. Who's the fighter, past or present, that you despised? Man, that guy just couldn't do right, man.
Oh man.
I think I'm putting you on the spot, though. Maybe pick the retired fighter. I don't know.
You know,
You know what? To ease the burden, I'll tell you who mine was. I could not stand Prince Hamed.
Oh man, I was just about to say.
I can, man. At that time, I didn't appreciate who Prince was until after he retired. But at that time, I just couldn't fucking stomach him, man.
I think me and everyone in the world wanted Barrera to beat him up that night.
I went back all the way to Kevin Kelly. I thought Kevin Kelly was going to work that ass.
But you know what though? He was a little bit ahead of his time.
Yes, he was.
If you think about it, right? And so he adopted the quote unquote heel character as a fighter. And prior to that, guys, kind of flirted with it, but he really like lived it and got on the people's nerves and got a reaction. And so he was a pioneer in that, for that, and he was good. He was a hell of a fighter, But I just at the time I hated him.
I didn't appreciate, like I said, I didn't appreciate the fighter that he was because of all that other stuff, the ring entrances, the jumping over the ropes, that weird, awkward leading. I was like, this guy. I'm a purist. If it's not pure, that fucking, he just drove me insane. And I thought Kevin Kelly from Brooklyn was going to put it on his ass, and I was like, this. He did what to Kevin Kelly? Third round knockout, man. He had Kevin Kelly just. I was like, oh my god. So, who is your favorite? If you could think of it, what was your favorite interview to do?
Ooh, damn! you put me on the spot tonight. Jeez.
You've done a lot of them, bro.
I know, and I'm trying to think. I don't want to diss nobody. That's why I'm like, I've had a lot of favorites, but then again, I've also had a lot that were like really dull. I don't know. There's so many great stories out there. I don't know if I could answer that one. If we were on Nori's Drink Champs, I would be taking shots right now.
I love that show, man.
I can't answer that question right now.
That's kind of like the level I want to get with you, because he provides such a comfortable environment that I didn't know Alicia Keys smoked weed until I saw that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've had so many good ones, man, and so many, man, I've had so many good ones, but I can't put my face. I'd have to really like go down the list and look to see, but I've had more good ones than bad ones.
I think I shared with you my one bad one, man. I'm still struggling with that one, but I felt obligated to finish it, so I want to finish it. And but people don't know, man. You go into these interviews and you think it's going to go one way. Sometimes it goes another way. Sometimes I did interviews last year where I had to pause and dry my eyes, man. The person was making me cry. It was very, very moving shit that most fighters go through, or experience, So, yeah. And what is the most frustrating part of what you do in boxing?
Let me see. Frustrating. So, I think I wouldn't say there's one thing that's frustrating. I just think that you have to continue to remind yourself that you have to have patience in doing it. Because sometimes, if you get told no, as when you put in an application for a fight, or you don't get a return call on an interview where they said they would return your call and they didn't, like, you get frustrated with those things, but I don't think that it's lasting. It's just something that you have to keep reminding yourself that with patience, time, and work, you'll get to the point where that doesn't happen. Does that still happen to me now? Of course it does. But it is what it is. I've learned to accept it. But in the beginning, it was hard to kind of get over that frustration. But again, I talked to Woods about it, and he would just be like, hey, that's just part of the game. You just got to pay your dues, and you'll get to the point where you won't run into that anymore.
Yeah, I hoping, wishing Wiz the very best right now. He's going through some, health issues. I don't want to put anything out there, but if you follow him, you know what he's going through. But when I first came on board, along with you two guys, the reason I think a lot of part of my success uh, this last year, working with New York Fights, and a lot of reason why I feel that I'm successful is because you two are just not, hey, here's a platform, fucking go. You guys are also mentors. Like you mentor me on the finer aspects of being a interviewer, of being a writer. Like, hey, keep in mind on this. Don't write this story this day. It may get lost in the sauce because it's a major event, or you may want to when you go down, even to the way I dressed for shows. I will call you, be like, hey, what do I wear for this? You be like, hey, for this show you wear this, for this show you wear this, and then Woods. People just don't know, man, how good of a person Woods is, man. When I got I didn't get sick, but when I got the side effects from the flu, I mean not the flu, the coronavirus vaccine, for some reason it hit me different. I called the CDC. I'm like, yo, did y'all give me COVID? What the fuck? So they was like, no, that's just your body reacting to it. He sent me money. Like, hey, he's like, hey, for soup. I'm like, for soup? What the fuck you talking about? So, but that's just the kind of guy he is, and then all of a sudden, like on a fucking Tuesday at 10 a.m., I'm at work and my phone's going bing, 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 bing. He was like, hey, listen, think about this and write about, he's just constantly mentoring you, man. And you did the same. So, that's why you guys are so beloved in the business, man.
Yeah, man, I
And
appreciate that.
so let's just jump to the boxing rush hour. Uh, it is on fire. People like it. It is the boxing podcast out there right now. I think you and I can't pronounce his last name. Forgive me, Dan Canobio
Yeah,
from Copybox. I think you guys got the two fire podcasts right now. I think both of you do. Uh,
I appreciate
I mean, I listen to some bad ones, man. And bro, it's I can't I can't get into it. So if you haven't heard the Boxing Rush Hour show, uh, Abe started this. I'm going to get into the how this came about and how this mastermind, because we sit in our bed, we think about these things. You people don't know that, but we do. Uh, the reason why I like it, you know, uh, you ever heard that song by Big Daddy Kane? I know you have, man. Smooth Operator.
Yeah.
You hear that beat? That just fucking mellow beat of Smooth Operator. That's what your boxing show reminds me, man. It is just such a mellow show. It's predominantly there to highlight fighters with 10 fights less, but you've had some notable people on there, Michael Woods, Jamal Harry. You got some, pretty sure some other future folks that have come on. But your approach to the show is such a mellow kind of vibe, right? And what you do is, first of all, fire a fucking intro. The intro's fire. Okay. And what you do is with your smooth, mellow voice, you just set a tone where the interviewer could be highlighted. The person you're interviewee, should I say, is highlighted. You don't say much. You got to ask a question and you let them go, man. How did that style come about? How did that style interview come about?
Well, first off, shout out to Lewis Heaton. That's his artist name, who came up with the intro. He is a Marine Corps veteran, and he has a clothing line, Underverse. So follow them on Instagram. But we were stationed together in California. Boxing Rush Hour show. The actual title just came to me, kind of thing. I was thinking about titles. I was actually running down titles for a show that Mike Woods was going to do with someone else, and that didn't pan out. And so in thinking that, I came up with that and just said, you know what, I'm gonna start this, for myself. And what I wanted to do is, I didn't want to give everybody everything that everyone else has, right? So I wanted to give the young guys some of the other people that affect the sport. Excuse me. As far as the style, like you mentioned, I don't know. My wife, she told me, hey, just be yourself, right? Just be yourself, and and it, whatever comes out of it is gonna come out of it, and it's gonna be you, right? And a good friend of mine, Jason, who owns Sofrito Rico with his wife out in Las Vegas. Make sure you check him out. He messaged me. He was like, "Listen, I know that you might be a little nervous, but just remember that people like you for you, right? And so just be you, be Abe from the BX. Like, that's what people want, right? And so as long as you could do that, and sprinkle in the professionalism, and it'll work itself out, and the style will create itself.
That's right. Yeah, and you get all that when you listen to the show, man. You get good stories, you get moving stories, like the kid that uh went to prison. Uh that was a very moving story. You get to introduce, characters like Zachary Ochoa, Chris Otero, or those two. If you couldn't find the most grittiest and grimiest boxers from New York, I think you found those two, man. No, you could tell those are some just straight fight. That's what they fucking fight. That's what they do. Don't ask them to do any calculus or any fucking else. But if you need something handled, that's the dudes you need to go get. So so no, I think it's a good change, man. I think you found that balance, man. Because you could be too boring and too monotone, and you can also be too amped up. That's why I respect him, and I think he's a genius. But when Teddy starts doing that crazy stuff, man, kind of turns me off a little bit. Uh, I think he got hit in the head a few times, but when Teddy Atlas starts doing all that crazy stuff, it kind of turns folks off, But I think you found that right balance, man. Like I said, man, it's just the instance I heard after the intro when you come in, be like, all right, fight fans. I was like, this motherfucker sound like, what was that? What was that radio station? It was Hot 97, the other one, Kiss FM.
No, WBLS.
WBLS Kiss FM at night, like around 10 o'clock. They had the Smooth Brother come on, man. he would play all that smooth R&B shit, right? Man. I was like, what? I didn't know if I was listening to a podcast. Or I should go get my wife and light some candles or some shit. But it was so smooth. The intro was smooth, but the boxers are lit, man.
Yeah.
Jamel Herring was so comfortable in your show. Well, he about snitched on himself. he had to stop telling stories. But he was about to snitch on the whole Marine Corps. Yeah. So yeah, man, good shit, Abe. Good shit, man. I'm happy for you, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So, what's the most rewarding part about what you do?
For me, and this was more so on the come up, was being able to give those young fighters an opportunity to be placed in a prime time slot on the website. So when I talk about, like, some of the prospect watches or the club shows, right? Being able to put, because you're not gonna get that. Like, if you go to any of these boxing websites, that's gonna be down at the bottom or off to the right. Like, it's gonna be like a little line, and then you have to click on it to see. On NY Fights, they actually get the marquee headline spot, right? And so being able to do that for guys, and them appreciating that, right? And later on, and by maybe turning around and giving you the first interview after winning the title, because you gave them that first opportunity. That's the part that's the most rewarding, right? And so, and then just seeing some of the young guys start off from a certain level and winning a title, or being at a position to win a title. Some of the guys that I saw at this club show coming up, I saw a young Virgil Ortiz. I saw a 5-0 Ryan Garcia. I saw Joshua Franco coming up. Blair the Flair, Cobbs, Sinicia Estrada. Like, I've seen a lot of these fighters come up from the very beginning, where
the Dominican kid, the Rodriguez kid.
Oh, Elvis Rodriguez.
Elvis Rodriguez, yeah.
That kid. So, like, a whole bunch of these guys, I saw them from the start, and then just kind of making, covering them from the start, and then covering them as they win a championship or about to fight for a championship. Like, that's probably the most rewarding thing for me personally.
Absolutely, man. You know what? And you got to shine those guys, man. You know why? Because everybody says boxing's boring, boxing ain't what it used to be. Boxing's boxing. Boxing, just because it's not on the marquee television, there are good fighters and good fights happening everywhere. If you're a boxer fan, you could easily just Google pro fights in my area, and you could go to a club show for $20, $25, $40, and watch some darn good fights. And then what they don't know is these club shows, the ring is right there, so you're seeing it. You're seeing the action. It may not be Canelo Alvarez, but you're seeing the same punches, the same, defense, and knockouts. It's boxing, man. And you want to have a good time with the fellas, go out to a club show.
And I was gonna say that too. Some of the most exciting environments that I've ever been to have been at a club show.
Bro,
because these fighters, right, they bring their whole neighborhood to the fight. And they all wearing the fighter's t-shirt that somebody made in somebody's garage. But, they wear it proudly, and they're all up in the front, and they're screaming that person's name when they're fighting. And I love that, man.
I love that shit. I was at the Christy Martin joint here in Myrtle Beach. As a matter of fact, she's coming May 21st. So I'm going to go cover it, right? And I already told her I was. And I was at the Christy Martin joint. And I guess this guy must have brought his family, right? And I think his girlfriend was in the crowd, right? And the guy's getting worked over like in the first round, and the girl's getting pissed. And she says, whatever his name was, do what you said you were gonna do, right? Right? And then this other cat in the crowd like, yeah, man, do what you said you were gonna do. And you hear it. And I don't know, between his girlfriend being pissed and the dude mocking his girlfriend, he landed a left hook that knocked this guy clean the fuck out. You can't get that anywhere else, man. And, some of these small-time promoters put on good shows, man. Yeah. So, all right, man. I think we got everything that we wanted to cover. For folks, I just want to give everybody an introduction of, if y'all don't know it, if I'm anybody in the boxing world today, you guys see me on Twitter. You see my YouTube channel. You've been privy to some of my articles. I credit Abraham Gonzalez. Not only is he one of the smartest boxing minds out there right now, I promise you, man, when the time comes, you're gonna see on TV cover some of these fights, right? People reach out for Abe's opinions. He's on more podcast shows than you guys probably don't even know about. It's because people seek that knowledge, man. Yeah. And he also has an eye for talent. And I was just fucking around one day, made a video, and my DM, hey man, what are you doing? Want to do a show? All right, sure. And that's went from there, man. From there. So not only is he's also generally a good person, he never, he has so much confidence in his skills that he don't care about giving other people props.
That's right.
Because all this, fucking haters, man, they don't want to give you props. They don't want to retweet your shit, so they lose shine. Come on, man.
That's right.
You know, so if Abe's always giving props to people, man. He's always retweeting you. He's always saying, "Hey, go here, check this dude out, do this and do that," because he's that confident in his skills. He don't need a. He knows he's not going to lose any shot because he retweets you or show you love. You know, and that's kind of like what we're about in your fights. We like to show love, like like uh like Nori says, man. I want to give people their flowers while they're here, man.
Yeah,
And
that's straight up.
that's what Abe and Woods do. That's what they do, man. That's what they're about, man. So, you know, what what can boxing give Abe in 2022?
Ooh, man, you just full of them questions today, boy. You got them loaded
Hey,
haymakers.
hey, and if people don't know, listen, I'm from the Bronx, the home of fucking hip hop. It didn't start off in Queensbridge. It didn't start off anywhere else. All right. All respect to Nas, though, you know what I'm saying? It didn't start anywhere else, right? All my interviews, I don't got notes, man. I freestyle. Okay.
Yeah,
I freestyle like a rapper, man. I'm to boxing journalism what fucking Papoose is to freestyling, okay? What Black Thought is to freestyling, baby. That's what I've had to boxing interviews. Now they just come to me, man. They just come to me, man. What can boxing give you in 2022?
you know, let me see. Let me give it a thought for a minute. I think, you know what they could give me in 2022? An undisputed heavyweight champion.
Yeah, man. Wow. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Stop all the nonsense. Let's get that done.
Let's get that done.
Let's get that done. And you know, hopefully, yeah, man. I don't care who it is. I don't care if the heavyweight champion. If somebody comes from Mars with a sanctioning belt from Mars, okay, and challenges, and you, man, let's just get it done. And that's a good one, man. That's a good one. You know, Abe is an undercover hip hop head, man. You know, I'll be talking to him. We be tweeting, man, and I'm like, hey, man, check. You know, remember he was like, man, AZ was fired back. That's AZ. Man, a lot of people don't know about AZ's flow, man. Probably the greatest guy to ever flow. So who's your favorite hip hop dude, man?
Let me see. I would. Yeah, I mean, I think I have to side with what Eminem said the other day, before the Super Bowl, where he said that he has favorites based on certain time periods, right? So, so for the '80s, I'm, Slick Rick, Rakim, Kane, right?
Yeah.
But '90s, Nas, Jay-Z. Nas, Jay-Z as far as records, but as far as lyricists, it would be like guys like Black Thought. I would even say maybe Royce the 5'9". I think he was still doing stuff. He started doing stuff that early. And Mace. And then in the 2000s, obviously, like, Eminem, Lil Wayne kind of guy. I give Lil Wayne credit because he definitely stepped up his stuff. But he had some help, but he did his thing. But I can't just pinpoint one because I like listening to a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think Eminem is absolutely right, man. I like listening to a little bit of everything too. So it's really hard to put who you gravitate to. Like Eminem gave props to Treach. People don't know how nasty Treach was on the mic. He's very underrated, man. So that's the Naughty by Nature guy, folks. All right, Treach. Okay, so no, I feel on that. And what's so crazy is you said Mace as a lyricist. People don't know. Okay, the whole before the whole Harlem World and P Diddy, that motherfucker was killing Mace, and he will lace your ass on the track.
Okay? He was Children of the Corn with Big L and Cameron.
Oh, Big L. Well, God, you know what? Let's stop, man. People don't know.
Yeah,
Big L. What are you talking about? No, not LL Cool J. I'm talking about Big L from Harlem, baby.
Okay. And let's not forget the jewel Tragedy Gaddafi. So
yeah,
I mean, man.
I mean, they don't know, brother. They don't know. Man, right now, man, you're gonna put boxing Twitter on the blow up, man. I'm surprised Marquise got my little so what I did there when I retweeted his joint, man, and put that Wu-Tang joint on there.
I was just talking to Marquise a little while ago too. Yeah. Oh man, I caught a bunch of Twitter heat today, because I said that Crawford Charlo is a bigger fight than Crawford Spence.
But you said that. You've been saying that, man.
Yeah, but people aren't accepting that, and I was trying to, for people that don't understand like the business aspect, I know, everybody's like, oh, but Spencer Crawford is the biggest fight that could be made. Yes, to the small portion of fans that follow boxing, right? Which is 250,000 people,
Mhm.
maybe, right? But they that their personalities and character can't sell that fight.
No,
Now, you got Charlo, who is super alpha male, right? He'll bring that out of Crawford.
that's right.
And that can get really interesting as far as the build up and everything else.
You said
But
that.
you're not gonna, you're not gonna get that with Spence and Crawford.
Yeah. So for some of the earlier episodes of Boxing Lounge from last year, I'm talking about March of last year, June of last year, you were saying that fight's not going to sell what people think it's going to sell. You've been saying that. Man. So
yeah,
obviously
man.
people haven't been fucking listening to what you've been saying, man. So
I mean, because
yeah,
I was gonna say if it was that much of a commercial blockbuster, they would have made the fight already.
That's right.
But because it isn't, it isn't. You have to figure you're starting off 20 million in the hole because they're gonna want 10 mil a piece, right? How are you going to make up 20 mil just to break even?
Just to break even.
You'd have to do it at the T-Mobile, charge expensive ass ticket prices, for floor. Yeah, you might get that. I just don't know. I mean, and it'll be hard because they're not gonna sell the fight. They just don't have. It's not in their personality, and that's okay. But it's just that it's just not gonna get made because of it.
Yeah, they're not gonna be Roy Jones bringing out, Method Man and Red Man. They're not gonna do that, man. Remember when Roy Jones did that?
Roy did a lot of shit.
Roy did a lot of shit, man. They must have forgot,
Remember when he played the semi-pro league basketball game before
right before a fucking fight, bro. Come on, who does that, bro? Manny Pacquiao tried to do it, but come on, man, who does that shit, man? All right, brother. I appreciate you coming on, being my first guest, man. I got nothing but mad love for you, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. And more to follow, man. We're gonna keep doing what we do, man. When we get together back on Boxing Lounge, you're gonna see the flamboyant, really just loud me, and then you're gonna see the very smooth guy. We balance each other out. That's what we do, man. That's like he's the Alizé, my Henny, man. We make that Incredible Hulk when we come together. That's
a good one right there.
All right, man, boy. I'll let you later.
All right, man.
Peace.